Every single nation on Earth is on a journey. You can think of it like they're all climbing this huge development ladder. But as they climb, there's this really complex dance going on between their wealth, their population, and their impact on our planet. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Which really begs the question, right? As these countries climb higher and get more prosperous, does all that progress end up fueling the planet, or does it actually cost us the world? Let's dive in.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of that, we've got to start with how a nation's population actually changes as it develops. And it's not random at all. In fact, it follows this surprisingly predictable pattern.
And this pattern, well, it has a name: the theory of demographic transition. The easiest way to think about it is like a four-step ladder that countries climb as they go from being a basic subsistence economy to a fully industrialized, wealthy one. And each step on that ladder totally transforms their population.
Okay, so this graph right here, this is basically our roadmap for the whole journey. That blue line, that's the birth rate, and the red line is the death rate. The space between them, well, that's what's driving that big green curve, which is the total population.
All right, let's actually walk through this roadmap step by step. We're going to look at four really distinct phases, starting with slow growth, then this period of explosive growth, then things stabilize, and finally, well, things can actually start to decline.
So let's rewind the clock. Phase 1 is all about pre-industrial society. Life is tough, You have a ton of babies being born, but you also have really high death rates from disease and famine and just harsh conditions. So they kind of cancel each other out and the population stays pretty flat. Pretty much the whole world has moved past this stage by now.
All right, now phase 2. This is where things just explode, literally. You get better sanitation, clean water, and basic health care, and bam, the death rate plummets. But the birth rate? It stays sky high, because it takes generations for cultural ideas about family size to change. That huge gap between births and deaths creates a population boom. A country like India is a great modern example of a nation right in the middle of this phase.
Then we hit phase 3, and things start to, find their balance again. As the economy gets better, and crucially, as education levels go up, especially for women, people start having fewer kids. The birth rate finally comes down to match that low death rate, and population growth starts to level off.
And then you get to the very top of the ladder, phase 4. In super developed countries, think Japan or Germany, birth rates can actually drop below the death rates. This means the total population starts to shrink, which, believe it or not, brings a whole new set of challenges, like how do you support an aging population with a smaller and smaller workforce?
Okay, so that's the whole population journey in a nutshell. But, and this is a big but, as countries are climbing this ladder of progress, something else is growing right alongside them, a shadow: their environmental impact. Yeah, the price of progress isn't just about money.
I mean, just look at these two pictures. They say it all, right? On the left, you've got a family in a more rural, developing area with literally everything they own. On the right, a person from a developed city with their stuff. The explosion in just things is absolutely staggering. And we can actually put a number on this. It's called the ecological footprint, and it measures all the resources a person uses. Get this, the average American's footprint is a whopping 9 hectares. That is 5 times bigger than the average person in China, and an incredible 18 times bigger than someone in Haiti. So yeah, it's crystal clear that affluence is a massive factor.
So you've got population, you've got wealth. How do you even begin to wrap your head around how it all fits together? Well, environmental scientists actually came up with a pretty simple but really powerful formula to help us figure out our total impact on the planet.
It's called the IPAD equation, and it just says that our total environmental impact is a product of 3 things: P for population, A for affluence, and T for technology. Let's break each one down real quick.
First up, P for population. This one's pretty obvious, right? If all the other factors stay the same, more people just means more resources get used up and more waste gets created. Simple as that.
Then you've got A for affluence. Now this is a massive multiplier. It's basically our level of consumption. As we just saw with that footprint chart, what one person consumes in a developed country can easily have a bigger impact than a whole bunch of people in a developing country. So it's not just about how many of us there are, it's about how much each of us consume.
And finally, T for technology. And honestly, this one's the real wild card. Technology is a total double-edged sword. It can give us horrible problems like pollution from factories, but it can also give us incredible solutions, like solar panels and clean energy that can slash our impact. So it can either make things way worse or way better.
So what's something that supercharges both that A for affluence and T for technology? Urbanization. People moving to cities. And this trend is just massive. By 2030, it's projected that over half the people in developing countries will be living in cities. We're talking about a shift of billions of people.
But here's the problem. When this happens so fast, planning can't keep up. You're looking at a shantytown in Peru, and honestly, it's a story that's playing out all over the world. The UN figures that 1 billion people, 1 billion, live in places just like this, often without even basic stuff like clean water or sanitation.
So this all leads to the big thorny question, doesn't it? How do we fix this? How can we help people live better, more prosperous lives without completely trashing the very planet that keeps us all alive?
And that idea, that goal, actually has a name: sustainable development. The definition is really simple, but it's so powerful. It's about meeting our own needs today without wrecking the ability of our kids and grandkids to meet their needs tomorrow.
And this isn't just a vague idea. A huge UN-backed study, the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, laid it all out. And look, they didn't pull any punches. They found that we are literally draining the Earth's natural capital, all that essential stuff like clean air, water, and soil. They warned that our current path just isn't sustainable. But, and this is important, they also found that there is hope, that shifting to sustainable practices can actually improve life for a lot of people.
So that's where we are. We, as a species, have been climbing this ladder of development like crazy for centuries. And now, the biggest question of all is facing us. Can we be clever enough to redesign the very top of this ladder to make it work for everyone and for the planet before our own progress sends us tumbling off the edge?